hey, I'm gonna go viral. Watch. I'm gonna go viral. One of these reels, I'm gonna go viral.
This is Javonta Murphy, a 32-year-old aspiring rapper and devoted father from Sylmar, California, who would be found dead in one of the most disturbing ways imaginable. His naked body stuffed inside a 55-gallon industrial barrel floating in the pristine waters of Malibu Lagoon State Beach.
Seems like there's a lot of backstory that we don't know about.
But what led to this horrifying moment? Who wanted this young father dead? Before we uncovered those shocking connections, let me take you back to July 30th, 2023, where this nightmare truly began. It was supposed to be just another California summer day on Malibu's coastline, but as the sun descended toward the horizon that evening, a park maintenance worker noticed something unusual bobbing in the water near the bridge. A large industrial barrel floating with an eerie weightiness that seemed out of place. The worker approached the object with growing concern. This wasn't typical beach debris, a cooler, driftwood, or marine life. The barrel was positioned near the Pacific Coast Highway Bridge, caught in the currents where the lagoon met the ocean, rocking with each passing wave. When the worker attempted to retrieve the barrel, he encountered a problem that foreshadowed the horror within. The drum was extraordinarily heavy, far too heavy to be empty or contain only water or sand. Despite multiple attempts, the sheer weight made it impossible for one person to manage. He decided to leave it overnight, planning to return with help and proper equipment. That night, as the barrel continued floating in the dark waters, nobody could have imagined what morning would reveal. As dawn broke on July 31st, 2023, a lifeguard arrived at Malibu Lagoon State Beach. With considerable effort, fighting the weight and water resistance, the lifeguard dragged the barrel to shore. Metal scraped against sand as he pulled it onto the beach. His hands worked at the sealed lid, struggling with the mechanism that had been deliberately closed tight. When the seal broke and the lid came free, when he peered inside expecting chemicals or waste or equipment, what he saw would haunt him forever. Inside was the naked body of Javonta Murphy, forcibly stuffed into the container, his humanity reduced to cargo, and his remains treated with profound disrespect that shocked even seasoned law enforcement officials. The discovery transformed this beach into an active crime scene, with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department Homicide Bureau descending to begin what would become a complex, months-long investigation into who killed Javonta Murphy, how his body ended up in that barrel, and why it was deposited in the ocean off one of California's most famous beaches. Javonta Murphy was not the person you might expect to end up murdered and disposed of in such a horrific manner. Born and raised in the tough streets of South Los Angeles, he was one of 5 brothers in a family that emphasized staying out of trouble, pursuing legitimate opportunities, and building a better future. Unlike many young men growing up in neighborhoods plagued by gang violence and street crime, Javonta actively avoided gang involvement, according to multiple friends and family members who would later speak to investigators and media outlets. He was carving out his path as a singer-songwriter and aspiring rapper, pouring his energy into his music career while simultaneously embracing his role as a father to a young son who depended on him. In the months before his death, Javonta had achieved a significant personal milestone, moving into his first apartment in Sylmar, a neighborhood in the San Fernando Valley region of Los Angeles. This wasn't just a change of address, it represented independence, growth, and the kind of forward momentum that suggested a young man who was getting his life on track. Friends described him as someone who was genuinely focused on positive things: his music, his child, his future prospects. He wasn't involved in the drama that often consumed young artists trying to make it in the competitive Los Angeles rap scene. He wasn't beefing with other rappers on social media. He wasn't caught up in street politics or territorial disputes. His father, Javonta Murphy, painted a picture of a son who was lovable, who set positive examples for others, who brought joy to his family. The last time Javonta saw his son alive was at a park, a casual family gathering where Javonta was playing basketball, laughing with friends, enjoying the simple pleasures of a summer day in Los Angeles. At some point during that afternoon, Javonta mentioned he needed to leave briefly, a quick errand, nothing that seemed concerning or unusual. He didn't deserve it, Javonta would later tell reporters, his voice breaking with the weight of a father's grief, a pain that no parent should ever have to endure.
I'm really hurt. My family hurt. You know,
Yeah.
my son was. You can see Oh, he was just trying to make it in life. He didn't deserve this.
He would never see his son alive again. That brief departure from the park was the last time this family would experience a normal moment before their world was shattered forever. Patrick Nelson, a close friend of Javonta's, echoed these sentiments when speaking about the young rapper's character and lifestyle choices. Nelson emphasized that Javonta had no known enemies, no ongoing conflicts with anyone in the music industry or on the streets, nothing that would suggest he was in danger or targeted for violence. This made his brutal murder even more shocking, even more senseless, even more difficult for those who loved him to comprehend. How does someone with no apparent enemies end up shot in the head, stuffed in a barrel, and dumped in the ocean? What could possibly motivate such extreme violence against someone who, by all accounts, was minding his own business and trying to build a legitimate life? The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department Homicide Bureau, led by experienced detectives who had investigated countless murders throughout their careers, immediately began working to answer these critical questions. The coroner's examination revealed that Javonta had died from a single gunshot wound to the head, a finding that was officially ruled a homicide. The condition of his body provided crucial investigative clues. There was minimal decomposition, suggesting that he had been killed relatively recently, possibly just days or even hours before his body was discovered floating in that barrel at Malibu Lagoon State Beach. This timeline was important because it meant the trail might still be warm, witnesses might still remember seeing something, and physical evidence might still be recoverable. Detectives worked backwards from the discovery, trying to trace how that barrel ended up in the ocean waters off Malibu. Surveillance footage from the area became a critical piece of the puzzle, potentially capturing vehicles or individuals near the lagoon around the time the barrel was likely deposited. The location itself raised questions. Malibu is a considerable distance from Sylmar, where Javonta lived, and from South Los Angeles, where he grew up. Why would someone choose this particular location to dispose of a body? Was it random or deliberate? Was the killer trying to send a message or simply trying to conceal evidence by letting the ocean currents carry the barrel away from shore? As investigators dug deeper into Javonta's background, searching for any possible motive or connection that might explain his murder, they uncovered a detail that would change the entire trajectory of the investigation and potentially link this case to one of the most high-profile murders in recent hip-hop history. Javonta had a younger brother named Jaquan Murphy, who was 24 years old at the time of Javonta's death. This detail might have seemed unremarkable, just another piece of background information, except for one crucial fact that immediately caught the investigators' attention and sent the investigation in a shocking new direction. Jaquan Murphy had been arrested in February 2020, along with 4 other individuals, in connection with the murder of rising rap superstar Pop Smoke, whose real name was Bashar Baraka Jackson. Pop Smoke had been killed during a home invasion robbery at a rental house in Hollywood Hills, shot multiple times by masked intruders who had used social media posts to track down his location. The case had shocked the music industry and devastated fans worldwide, cutting short the life and career of one of Brooklyn drill music's most promising talents. Jaquan had initially faced serious charges in that case, including attempted murder, but was ultimately cleared of involvement in Pop Smoke's actual killing, though he awaited trial for a separate, unrelated murder charge at the time of his brother's death. This connection between the Murphy brothers and the Pop Smoke case immediately raised a disturbing possibility in the minds of investigators. Could Javonta's murder be retaliation for Pop Smoke's death? Could someone connected to Pop Smoke, someone seeking revenge for the rapper's killing, have targeted Jaquan's brother as payback? In the world of gang violence and street justice, such retaliatory killings are unfortunately common, with innocent family members sometimes becoming targets simply because of their relationship to someone perceived to have wronged another crew or individual. Pop Smoke's murder had involved complex gang dynamics, with the teenage perpetrators reportedly affiliated with certain street crews in Los Angeles. The murder had been particularly brutal. Pop Smoke was pistol whipped and shot 3 times during a robbery attempt focused on stealing his diamond Rolex and Cuban-linked chain. The fact that Jaquan Murphy had been arrested in connection with that case, even though he was later cleared of any involvement, meant that his name was publicly associated with one of hip-hop's most notorious murders. However, law enforcement officials have been careful not to officially confirm the Pop Smoke connection as a verified motive. While media outlets and observers have speculated about this possible link, and while it certainly provides a potential explanation for what otherwise seems like a motiveless killing of a man who had no known enemies, investigators have stated that they are exploring multiple angles and have not narrowed their focus to this single theory. The reality is that in a city as large and complex as Los Angeles, with its intricate web of gang territories, street beefs, and criminal networks, murders can occur for reasons that are never fully understood by outsiders. The breakthrough in Javonta Murphy's murder investigation came in early October 2023, more than 2 months after his body had been discovered floating in that barrel at Malibu Lagoon. On October 3rd, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department announced they had arrested 3 individuals in connection with the homicide, bringing a sense of relief to Javonta's family, while simultaneously raising new questions about exactly what had transpired and why this young father had been targeted for such brutal violence.
We spoke with Lieutenant Hugo Reynaga.
They have one murder suspect, which is Joshua Simmons.
37-year-old Joshua Lee Simmons has been charged not only with attempted robbery and criminal threats, but also with the murder of aspiring rap artist Javonta Murphy.
The primary suspect, 37-year-old Joshua Lee Simmons, was charged with murder, including special allegations for personal use of a firearm. According to investigators, Simmons was believed to be the actual shooter, the person who had pulled the trigger and fired the fatal gunshot into Javonta's head. The second arrest involved 41-year-old Dennis Eugene Vance, who was charged as an accessory to the murder, suggesting his role may have been helping to conceal the crime, dispose of the body, or otherwise assist Simmons after the killing occurred. Some reports also mention a third individual, Brandon Gray, though details about his specific role and charges have been less clear in public records and media coverage. What made these arrests particularly significant was the revelation that Simmons and Vance were acquaintances of Javonta Murphy. They weren't complete strangers. This detail fundamentally changed the nature of the investigation and suggested that whatever motive drove this murder, it likely stemmed from some personal conflict, dispute, or situation involving people who actually knew each other. However, despite this known connection between the victim and the suspects, authorities have declined to publicly specify what that exact motive might have been, leaving family, friends, and the public to wonder what could have driven someone to kill an acquaintance in such a brutal and calculated manner.
Believed to be the shooter in the case. They were able to find video of a vehicle that they used to dump the barrel in the lagoon. And then they worked backwards from the video and were able to identify Joshua Simmons.
The investigation revealed that surveillance video had captured the vehicle used to transport and dump the barrel containing Javonta's body at Malibu Lagoon. This video evidence was apparently crucial in identifying Simmons as a suspect, allowing detectives to work backwards from the disposal of the body to identify the people responsible for the murder itself. License plate information, vehicle characteristics, and other details captured on camera provided the investigative thread that eventually led to the October arrests. But the story of Joshua Lee Simmons doesn't end with Javonta Murphy's murder. In fact, investigators discovered that Simmons had been involved in another serious crime just 2 months after Murphy's killing, an attempted robbery at a jewelry store in El Monte, California that occurred in early September 2023.
He does have a criminal history. In fact, he had been arrested in June. That was 1 month before the body was found and 2 months before the attempted robbery. But apparently, the LA County DA refused to prosecute.
On September 2nd, 2023, Simmons walked into a jewelry store owned by the Mesa family and attempted to rob the establishment using bear spray, the kind of powerful irritant typically used to deter attacking bears in wilderness situations. The robbery attempt quickly went sideways. Surveillance cameras captured Simmons spraying the chemical agent at store employees before fleeing the scene, but not before making one particularly memorable mistake. He left the jewelry store shirtless, apparently having removed his shirt at some point during the botched robbery attempt. This detail, combined with clear video footage of his face and actions, made his identification relatively straightforward for law enforcement. When the Mesa family learned that the man who had terrorized their store had also been arrested for murder, there was a mixture of vindication and shock. Quote, "Honestly, I'm so glad they caught him because he was dangerous to everyone, to the civilians," a family member told reporters, expressing relief that someone they had immediately recognized as dangerous was finally off the streets. The attempted robbery led to additional charges against Simmons, including criminal threats and attempted robbery, stacking on top of the murder charges he already faced. But even more disturbing revelations about Joshua Lee Simmons would emerge in the months following his arrest for Javonta Murphy's murder. By January 2024, Simmons was hit with yet another murder charge, this time for the shooting death of a 50-year-old man named Anthony Solak in Inglewood, California. The timeline is particularly chilling when you lay it out chronologically. Simmons allegedly murdered Javonta Murphy sometime in late July 2023, then 2 months later attempted to rob a jewelry store using bear spray, and somewhere in that time frame was also allegedly involved in the murder of Anthony Solak. Even more troubling was the revelation that Simmons had been arrested in June 2023, 1 month before Murphy's body was found, but the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office had declined to prosecute that case. What might have happened differently if those charges had been pursued? Would Javonta Murphy still be alive if Simmons had been in custody rather than out on the streets? Let me know what you think in the comments section. As of November 2025, no public trial updates or verdicts have emerged in the Javonta Murphy murder case. This lack of resolution is frustratingly common in the American justice system, where cases can languish for years in pretrial proceedings, especially in complex homicide investigations that might involve gang elements, multiple suspects, and extensive evidence collection. The judicial process grinds slowly, and for families waiting for justice, that slow pace can be agonizing. For Javonta Murphy's family, the waiting continues, waiting for the judicial system to provide some measure of justice for a young man whose life was cut short, whose body was treated with profound disrespect, and whose dreams of musical success and providing for his son were violently destroyed by someone he apparently knew and trusted enough to have in his life as an acquaintance.
Phone jumping all the time. What they need from a G. Hey, she my queen. Yeah, she my queen. Cause she be riding with me. Damn, we take a drag. Go get the bag. Hey, she my queen. Yeah, she my queen. Mary Jane. Yeah, Mary Jane. Breaking it down in that roller. Breaking it down in that roller. She my queen. Mary Jane. Yeah, Mary Jane. Breaking it down in that roller. Breaking it down in that roller. Puff, never pass. Got you bustin' like a man. Light it up, take a drag. It's only OG in the back.
Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.